Ever wish there was an express lane for working in Canada? Well, there is. Today, we're going to break down a really strategic pathway that lets skilled workers and their employers do just that, the LMIA Exempt Work Permit. I want you to think about something. For so many people trying to work in Canada, there's this one huge roadblock. It's called the Labor Market Impact Assessment, or LMIA for short. And let me tell you, it can be a real headache. Long, super expensive, and just plain complicated. But what if you could just sidestep it? Skip it completely?
Well, guess what? You absolutely can. And the key, the secret handshake, if you will, is something called the International Mobility Program, or IMP. That's the official name for a whole collection of work permit streams that let you skip that dreaded LMIA.
So, for the next little while, I want you to think of this as your personal roadmap. We're going to navigate this fast track together. I'll point out all the best shortcuts, the main highways, and maybe most importantly, the potholes to avoid. You ready? Let's dive in.
Okay, first things first, you gotta understand that there are basically two main highways to get a work permit in Canada. Over on the left, you've got the standard route, the slow lane, if you will. That's the temporary foreign worker program. Its whole purpose is just to fill labor shortages. And to prove there's a shortage, an employer has to jump through all those LMIA hoops. But then over on the right, you have our express route, the International Mobility Program. This one's different. It's not about filling a job, it's about advancing Canada's interests, things like its economy and culture. And here's the kicker. If you can show that you advance those interests, you get to completely bypass the LMIA. Big difference, right?
So why is everyone so excited about this express route? I mean, what makes it so much better? Well, if you qualify, the benefits are, honestly, they're huge. And not just for you, the worker, but for the employer too. Let's get into the good stuff. Let's start with the money, because that always talks. $1,000. That's the government fee an employer has to cough up just to apply for an LMIA. That's $1,000, right off the bat, before they've even spent a penny on advertising or anything else. Okay, now let's look at our express route. With the International Mobility Program, you know what the employer pays? Just this. A $230 fee called the employer compliance fee. I mean, from $1,000 down to $230, that is a massive saving. You can see why companies are so keen on this. And believe me, it's not just about the money. The perks just keep coming. The employer doesn't have to go through that whole song and dance of advertising the job for weeks to prove a Canadian can't do it. The processing time's way, way faster. We're often talking weeks, not months. And this is a big one for families. If you're a high-skilled worker, your spouse can often get an open work permit, which is a total game changer. And maybe the best part, all that work experience you're getting, it's like rocket fuel for your future permanent residence application. It's huge. Okay, so you're probably thinking, this sounds amazing. How do I get in on this? Well, getting on this fast track is all about finding the right exemption code for you. Let's stick with our roadmap analogy. Think of these codes as the different on-ramps to get onto the express highway. Let's go through some of the most popular ones. All right, first on-ramp, code C12. This is for intra-company transfers. It's basically designed for big multinational companies. So let's say a company wants to move a top executive, a manager, or a super specialized employee from their office in London over to their new office in Vancouver. C12 is the code they're going to use. Simple as that. Next, we've got a really interesting one, code C16, the Francophone Mobility stream. Now, what's so cool about this is that it's designed to promote the French language outside of Quebec. So if you've got a skilled job offer anywhere in Canada except Quebec, and you can prove you have decent French skills, we're talking about an NCLC level 5, this is just an incredible option. Then there's code C11. This one's for all the entrepreneurs and self-employed folks out there. It's for people who want to start or run their own business here in Canada. But, and this is a big but, the bar is set pretty high. You really have to prove that your business is going to bring a significant benefit to Canada. We're talking about creating jobs, bringing in new tech, you get the idea. And finally, there's a whole bunch of codes that fall under international agreements. Basically, if you're a citizen of a country that has a trade deal with Canada, think the US and Mexico with CISMA or a lot of European countries with CETA, these deals have lists of specific professions that get a much, much smoother path to a work permit. It's definitely worth checking out. Okay, so you've picked your own ramp, you've found your code. What happens next? What does the actual journey look like from here? Well, it's a pretty straightforward 5-step process. It all kicks off with step 1, locking in that correct code. Seriously, this is the foundation for everything, so you gotta get it right. Then step 2 is on the employer.
They have to go online to the government's portal and officially submit your job offer. Step 3 is your turn. You gather up all your personal documents, your degrees, your work history, all of it. Step 4, you submit the actual work permit application. And finally, step 5, you'll likely have to give your biometrics. That's just fingerprints and a photo, and then you wait for that amazing final approval letter. All right, let's quickly talk about the costs for this trip. First, you've got that $230 employer compliance fee, and the government is super clear on this. The employer has to pay it, not you. Then you, the worker, will cover the $155 work permit fee plus another $85 for those biometrics I just mentioned. So the costs are pretty transparent. Now, like any road trip, there can be some hazards, some potholes you want to avoid. This is no different. See, without an LMIA to kind of pre-approve the job, the immigration officer looking at your file has a lot of power to make a judgment call. So let's talk about the most common traps people fall into, and more importantly, how you can avoid them. Okay, here's a classic reason for refusal, especially for those intra-company transferees. The officer writes something like this: applicant possesses general industry knowledge, not proprietary knowledge. What they're basically saying is, yeah, you're good at your job, but anyone in your field knows this stuff. It's not special to your company. This is what we call the specialized knowledge trap. So how do you fix that? How do you get around it? Simple. You have to prove your knowledge is truly unique to the company. You can't just talk about general skills. You need to focus your application on things no one outside your company would know about, like specific internal software, unique company processes, secret client lists, or maybe even a tool you helped create. That's what makes your knowledge specialized. Here's another big hazard, this time for the entrepreneurs using that C11 code. You get a refusal saying you failed to prove the business will create a significant benefit for Canada. Basically, the officer looked at your plan and thought, this is too vague. It's just an idea. I'm not convinced it's actually going to do all these great things for Canada. And the fix for this? I'm going to be blunt. It's non-negotiable. You absolutely must have an incredibly detailed, solid as a rock business plan. It can't just be a dream on paper. It needs hard numbers, financial projections, a real market analysis, and super clear details on exactly how it's going to benefit Canada. Are you hiring Canadians? Will you boost the local economy? Are you bringing new technology? You have to spell it out. So let's fast forward. You've navigated the roadmap perfectly, you've avoided the hazards, and you've got your work permit. Awesome. But what's the final destination? Well, for a lot of people, the goal isn't just to work here for a little while, it's to make Canada their permanent home. And this is where this whole LMIA exempt permit becomes so valuable for the long game. Getting just 1 year of skilled, full-time work experience in Canada is one of the single most powerful things you can have for your permanent residence application through the Express Entry system. This work permit isn't just a permit, it's your golden ticket to getting that crucial Canadian experience. And there you have it. That is the express route to working in Canada. Now that you've got the roadmap, you've got a much clearer and hopefully faster path to hitting your career goals. So I guess the only question left to ask is Canada the next stop on your journey?